I begin today by acknowledging the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, traditional custodians of the land on which this podcast is recorded today. Also pay respects to the elders past and present, and extend that respect to any other Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people who may be listening today. This is Melanated in Melbourne, a podcast designed to give an insightful look into the Australian lifestyle from the lens of two Black American besties. Well, should we do our introductions? And are we trying to not say our last names? Because I remember that was a thing.
Yeah, that was a really bad thing. I was like giving my whole entire government name, address.
And this is my address.
And this is my PIN number.
My mother's maiden name is.
Oh, yes. What other security questions do you need? The name of my first pet. Yeah, I guess we can go ahead and jump into it then.
So my name's Ri'chard, and this is my co-host,
Nicole.
And we are here to present to you our podcast called Melanated in Melbourne.
Melanated in Melbourne.
We'll probably get that as a soundbite at some point in the future. But yeah, so the purpose of this podcast is essentially to document, or I guess to discuss the Black experience in Australia. We've both been here for 5+ years. We don't have to get into the details of how long it's been, because it's been a while. And
it's been 84 years.
Some of these things have aged us more than others. Shout out to the lockdown, which will probably have to come up at some point in comparison to how America handled it, but that's much later on. I'm like, well.
No, it's okay. Like,
it happened.
It happened.
We survived. I'm a survivor. This is like, there's gonna be so many takes we just cut out loud.
No, it's just gonna be so many musical numbers.
But yeah, so essentially, why would you want to hop onto that? Because I remember when I had the idea. Oh, actually, we can just start from the beginning of what the name came from, maybe.
Oh, Melanated in Melbourne?
Yes. So initially, way back when, 2.5 years ago, almost 3.
Oh God! Oh, yeah. Shut up!
I know time is not real.
Ri'chard has this really nasty habit of telling me how long ago something was, and it ruining my complete day.
It's not my fault that I can remember time, and you just like to let it go out the window.
Personally, I don't believe in time. I don't.
That makes sense, considering how many times you were not on it.
All right, fine, fair.
But no, so an undisclosed amount of time ago, we won't go into it.
Thank you.
When I knew I was going to be living in Australia forever, I knew that I wanted to make friends that were a bit more permanent, more like kind of like things in common with me, because I came here as a backpacker. And I was here for a year, and everyone that I met, they were very transient. Like, I met them, and they were on their way out, or I was on my way out, or something. We'd always pass over. We'd have a great time for 2 or 3 months, and it would just be like, cool, I'm leaving. And I'm like, cool, I have no friends again.
Oh, no.
So at that point, I was like, I want friends who kind of understand what I've gone through and what I'm going through currently. So I just kind of, Black History Month was coming up, and I was like, everyone knew at least one Black American. So I was like, hey, you know somebody Black, I know somebody Black. Let's just get everybody together and just be Black in a space.
Yes.
And it started out with like 8 of us, and that's where I met Nicole. Nicole, do you want to explain how you got roped into this whole activity?
I sure would love to. So I ended up getting roped into. It sounds like a pyramid scheme.
Wasn't it?
Hey, I got more than I could bargain for.
This is why there's no kids listening to the show.
Oh my God, please don't. Please, yeah, actually, I'm going to just say it again. Please don't have your kids listening to this, because I'm very inappropriate, and yeah, be a good parent. Be a parent.
Yes.
Hey, anyways. Apparently. Boo. Are we allowed to do puns?
I mean, who's going to stop us?
Yeah, you're right. Nobody. Who gonna check me? Nobody.
Not the State Library, which is where we're recording this.
Oh, yeah, shout out to the library. Not Library State. It's the State Library.
State Library Victoria.
State Library Victoria. I don't know what her full name is, but she got it.
I think that is her full name.
Is that her full name?
In the email, and we just checked in. But back to you being roped in.
Okay, cool. Let's see. So I got roped in because I, again, can't think of a better word than roped in. I met everybody through a wonderful, awesome, totally dope-ass chick named Kristen, and I was her waitress when I was working at this brunch spot in Melbourne, and we'll have to talk about the rest of that the other day, because working for drunk Aussies on like a Saturday afternoon, like power brunching, my God, a different terrain, a different thing. So I met her because I was waiting her table, And I open my mouth and I'm just like, hey, how's it going, guys? Like, is there anything I can get you? Like, literally the whole job was like them telling me, as soon as you see them take a sip from their glass, refill it. Mm-hmm. So I'm going over, I'm refilling all their mimosas. I'm like, guys, are you enjoying yourselves? Are you having a good time? And then Kristen looks at me and is just like, oh my God. And it was obviously like black girl respect. Like, as soon as we saw each other, we're like, oh, hey, black girl, black girl. But then she was like, are you American? I'm like, I'm American. She's like, I'm American too. Ah! And we, of course, have to scream because I'm pretty sure those are the rules.
Yeah,
and
I read their handbook.
Yeah,
once.
and she was like, it's in the handbook. It's in the rules.
And when you hug, you get to do a little side to side.
You have to do the rocking side to side. And I met her that Saturday, and then she was just like, oh, we're doing a Black History like group meeting, me and a bunch of other Black Americans next week. Would you like to come? And I was like, oh my God, I would love to. Yeah, because at that point I hadn't really made a whole lot of friends. I think, that was God. I don't want to. I think, I've been in Australia for like 2 years and I hadn't really made my own friends yet. So I was like really grateful for her. And then she put me in this, group chat with other African Americans. And then we met at the restaurant and they sat us outside.
We actually sat outside on purpose because I didn't really want to, we wanted to be somewhere where people could see us. So, I was one of the first ones there. And after, the later people who told us they could hear us before they saw us.
Pretty much.
As anyone knows, as most Black people know, when you get 2 of us to 3 of us in a group, the volume just increases. I don't know why.
It's because it's joy.
Yes. And especially here, that energy, especially because a lot of us hadn't really been around that many Black people in a while since we were home. It just that energy. It felt like being here by ourselves, on an island, on an island,
literally.
It just felt like that energy was dampened. So when we got together, it was just this whole explosive
it's
thing.
like a cathartic kind of moment of just being like, oh my gosh, a safe space, and I don't have to explain jokes, and nobody's gonna touch my hair. Yay! And we were so I'm a loud person regardless, so I really felt like I found my tribe when it was other loud people around. I was very grateful for it.
Oh, 1,000%. And because that was an undisclosed amount of time ago, since then we've had
time blindness.
Nicole and I became instant friends. The chemistry was very back and forth. So when I had this idea, there was no one else that I wanted to bounce back and forth with than Nicole, because we could just unscriptedly do a thing. This is our second or third test episode, and
because we've tried. Listeners, we have tried. Oh baby, we have tried.
We are not tech savvy.
No.
That this has been a year in the making.
I appreciate you saying a year. I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, see that that is fine.
A
year is
a
easy.
year.
A year.
She's cute.
She's cute. It's
a 1-year-old birthday party.
Exactly. She doesn't remember anything.
She doesn't.
This is for the parents.
This is just for the parents.
Who shouldn't be having them listen to this podcast.
Yes, exactly.
To repeat.
Better not bring your kids.
But
don't sue us, Dave Chappelle. Okay.
Exactly. But whenever that group got together, I was I'm the kind of person that loves alliteration. So I came up with Melanated in Melbourne, and it just stuck, and it just felt good. And in that time period, we've had so many great adventures and experiences together. And at a certain point, it was just when we talked to our friends and family back home, they were like, oh, how's Australia like? You can just sum it all up in a phone call or an Instagram post or anything like that. Because from being a backpacker, and Nicole, you have a different experience because you came here on the partner visa. Being a backpacker is very transient, as I mentioned before. You can go in and out. Everything's this is fun, it's whatever. But when you're really trying to live here and have that experience, it's a whole different world. So this podcast is actually going to be to discuss various things, like Nicole mentioned, working here as opposed to did you serve, were you a server or waitress in America as well?
Absolutely not. Nope. Sure wasn't. Wasn't. I didn't develop that skill until I had to. Yeah. And that's when I moved here because I was just so done with my life in America. I was just I just need to leave.
I'll do whatever
it takes.
And myself as well. I did a bunch of different jobs that I didn't do in America before, but it was the quality of life. We're going to talk about working here. We're going to talk about visas. We're going to talk about other Black people, whether that be Africans or Australians, Aboriginal community, or what have you. Just that general
Papua New Guinea.
Thank you for that one. I am not distracting in this life.
We had to shout them out.
Who else do you want to shout out since we're just...
shout out to Fiji. Shout out to the First Nations Black people. Shout out to... Okay, that's all I can think of at the moment.
Amazing. That's at least 2 more shout outs than I had on my list. But one of the things that we wanted to talk about is work ethic, work-life balance, the whole American hustle culture. does not.
I don't know her anymore.
I don't think I ever really.
I don't know her anymore. Although she does come and knock on my door every once in a while when I feel like I'm not being productive enough. She's like, "Hey, don't you want to, even though you're tired, don't you want to do something?" And it's like, oh, man, just very draining. But that girl does not live here.
She doesn't. We don't know her anymore.
She doesn't.
Well, good for her. Let her sleep outside. But no, so we just got a few, and throughout the podcast we'll have a few guest speakers as well, because we have a lot of friends here now that have also been here around this amount of time. Our mutual friend Kristen, we can try to phone her in, see if we can get that going. Fingers crossed. Shout out to Kristen. But the nightlife is like, there's so many differences and similarities between America and Australia. So
majorly,
this podcast will talk about that and just kind of cover those bases.
And I'm so grateful for this medium because when I had first moved here, I was like, I'm going to do a blog. I had a website. I put the Instagram together, and I'm like, ooh, girl, we about to do it. We're about to write about everything in our experience here. And then the time came to write. And, oh, my God, it is such a terrifying experience because I am just, I'm not like, I'm like, I tweet.
Yep.
I can string a couple sentences together, but writing a whole page that will really convey the message you're trying to send, and that's also like capturing the experience fully, it's just like, it's not going to happen.
No, it's not. Like, it's easier to talk about it than to write about it, because then you're like, oh, does my point get across? Can you get my inflection? Did I write this well enough that if I'm not there with someone reading this, will they understand where I was coming from? And then just the idea, like, obviously during lockdown, everyone and their mother had a podcast, so it was just like,
sure did.
When we're like, you know what, this is something like I don't listen to that many podcasts because I get bored and distracted very easily.
Fair.
But everywhere that I looked, I didn't find anything like this. And I know there are people back home who would like, maybe hearing this podcast will convince them to run from America. Like, run as fast as you can. Like, genuinely.
Run.
But
just as fast as you can.
Or just people who are curious about the Black experience. Even if you're white, like, it's okay to be white. It is still, it's okay to be white. Some people forget. Like.
It's okay.
White is okay.
It is okay.
And it's like, but it's also just to know, because if you don't live this experience, how else will you know about this experience? Like, I will never know what it's like to be a Black woman in any capacity. So any story that you share here, I will never, I can see that, but I will never firsthand live it. Just like anyone will never know what it's like the Black gay male experience to be living here.
Correct.
So like, we are able to add those perspectives. We do need to work on finding a straight Black American. Because I think I know one.
Oh my God.
Vaguely.
Oh.
And maybe we can just like.
Well, yeah. I guess straight people are okay.
Yeah, it's okay to be straight as well.
No. It's okay to be straight. I guess I don't know any. Yeah, like all of my friends here are gay and Black.
Yeah.
Gay Black Americans. So
And Black women.
And Black women.
Shout out to Black women.
Shout out to Black women. But okay. Wow, we'll have to really find one.
Yeah.
And when we do, we'll be like, come with us.
You're staying with us forever.
You have to podcast with us.
You're now captured.
Correct.
But what were we talking about? We just kind of.
You were talking about like combining our two experiences together because you hadn't really heard anything. Oh my God, I remembered something.
All right, listeners, this is actually a huge thing. We cannot cut this out because like we need to show that I forgot and Nicole remembered.
It literally never happens.
It never happens.
This literally never happens.
We get distracted and I bring us back, but Nicole brought us back and it's recording.
Wow.
Watch this actually not recording, like the lights on.
We forgot to insert the chip.
Oh no, I dipped the chip. I dipped the chip first.
Oh, you dipped the chip.
And I formatted the chip because I pressed format like the bushing told me to do. But yeah, so taking our two experiences and just being able to talk it through. Like we'll preface by saying these are all our opinions and experiences.
Totally.
We are not experts on anything other than being Black because I've been doing it every day of my life and being gay for just about as long. So it's like, this is what I know and this is my experience specifically. Any of our guests, Nicole as well, like none of our experiences are dead facts. They are what we experience. Other people can have very different experiences and we would love to hear that from those people.
The word of the day is opinion.
Yes. And it is not an all-knowing thing. It is just how we feel, how we have felt, what we've experienced, and that's just it.
Correct.
And if you want to argue about it, talk to somebody else because I'm not listening.
Send it to our email address.
That totally exists. That is a real thing that we have going at this moment in time.
Mm-hmm. It is.
And we check it often.
Oh, so much
What's
checking.
our email address again, Nicole?
Oh, it is Melanated in Melbourne.
Yes.
At Hotmail.
Hotmail. You can't.
Okay.
You should have said AOL.com.
I should have said AOL.com. I mean, okay, we don't have one yet, but I'm sure we'll have a place for you to send all your hate mail to in a very short amount of time. And love mail. Love mail.
I mean, the hate mail will be deleted because we're not consuming trauma things or disrespect.
Totally.
Like, you can have another opinion, but again, it's still an opinion. So arguing your opinion doesn't change ours.
Correct. And you ain't going to say it to my face.
Because you won't find us.
Correct.
Because we remembered not to say our last names this time.
Hey.
Proud of us. Look at us go.
We're doing it.
Proud of us. But just in the general gist of the welcome episode, we can just give our quote-unquote origin stories, like where we grew up in the States, what brought us here, and how long we've been here, and that kind of thing.
Okay, awesome.
Oh, ladies first.
Oh my. Okay, so I would say that where I'm from is a little bit complicated because my dad was in the Army, so I moved around a lot as a kid. I was born in Europe, but then I moved to the States when I was about 4 years old.
Does that give you a European passport? Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, no. Everybody asks this as soon as I say it. They're like, so do you have the European passport? And at that point in time, not to date myself, but at that point in time, you had to make a decision by the time you were like 23 years old, whether you were an American citizen or a European citizen. And at that point, I had not been back over there. So I'm like, well, I'm not going to denounce my American, citizenship for a place that I hadn't been to yet. So no, I do not have that. I know. But I'm wondering if things have changed now. But
I haven't heard of Google.
Yeah, I know somebody else gonna do it. Moved to the States when I was probably about like 4 years old. Lived in Colorado, Oklahoma, Virginia, but I claim New Jersey as home because that's where I spent the most time in. And then, I was like living in New Jersey, like living in Hoboken after I graduated from college, living in Hoboken.
No joking.
Yeah, Hoboken, no joking. Shout out. So living in Hoboken and then working in Manhattan because like the very first time I saw New York, I was like, oh my God, how could I ever be away from this? This is the most incredible city in the world. And it is in a lot of ways, but it's also incredibly hectic. So when I was working in Manhattan, I was working like in the fashion industry, which is essentially like the movie The Devil Wears Prada, but even more turned up because my boss was a very mean French man. Oh. And he made sure you felt it. If he was in a bad mood, you had to be in a bad mood too. And that's just the way that it was. But I was like, just trying and grinding and working as much as I could there. And it just wears on you after a while. And I think after like an undisclosed amount of years.
Seems to be a recurring theme. Because you can't remember because you don't want to remember.
I can't remember.
She doesn't want to remember.
I don't want to remember. After an undisclosed amount of years, I just said, I was like, you know what? If I'm not married by the time that I'm 30, I'm going to move to Australia. And I was like, and I said it out loud. I was like, I'm just going to move to Australia and I'll just figure the rest out. Then about a year later, I meet this really wonderful boy and he's Australian and fate for real. Like, cause it was crazy. It ended up happening like a year later. And then we got together and we were living together for a little while and then things just started to get crazy. And he was like, well, would you ever consider moving to Australia? And I was like, absolutely. I definitely would. And I told my family, I was like, listen, I'm going to be moving to Australia. I bought my visa and bought a plane ticket. And then I was just like, you know what? I'll just figure out the rest. And that was kind of it.
Oh, that is actually some of those things I didn't even know. Because I remember we've done this the first time, but some of those things are still brand new to me. So we're all learning things together.
We're all learning things together. But how about you? Where are you from? How'd you get here?
Oh, for me, my story is also complicated. My family was not in the military, but my mother, shout out to my mother.
Shout out to moms.
She just liked to move.
I know that's right. Nomad life.
So I was born in California, and I lived there till I was about 7. And around that time, it was like the 90s, and everyone found out how cheap Texas was. The same amount of money you can make in California, you can take that money and just stretch it so far.
So far in Texas.
So my grandma was like, hey, we're moving. And my mom was like, I guess we're moving. And I was 6, being like, my Legos or something. I don't know what I don't know what I was thinking, but I just know that I moved, and we all moved to Texas together. And from being in Texas, I ended up in Vegas. I ended up in Michigan, for the places in Texas. So, but if I count it all up, I think I was in Texas for about 12 to 14 years of my life, because I ended up I was in, I think, 3 elementary schools, 2 middle schools, and 2 different high schools.
Oh my God, I'm going to have to count out how many I've done.
And
too.
that was just like,
awesome.
There was no reason for it, but it was also, it kind of made me pretty good at moving. Like, I was never particularly popular. Like, I just got used to it. Like, I didn't hit the ground running and be like, hey, I'm new, come love me. It was just like, I'm here. I guess we're doing this
totally.
again.
It's like, I guess I will tolerate you all for
however long, until I move again.
Until I move again. That was pretty much the attitude I had as well. Very similar.
And then when I graduated high school, I was like, I knew who I wanted to be on the inside, because I was this little closeted kid who, like, I just came out when I was 16. I was like, I want to be more myself. I want to have roots somewhere. So when I chose my liberal arts college in North Texas, shout out to UNT, I hit the ground running. I joined a fraternity, which I never thought I was going to do.
Wow.
And they were very much like these oddballs. I don't know if you watched the show Greek at all. Did you watch Greek?
No.
It was a little ABC family show. It was random little.
Oh my God. Yeah. It was like around the same time as like
Pretty
Secret
Little
Life,
Liars.
Pretty Little Liars, Secret Life
American
American
Teen.
Teen, yeah.
It was that whole genre of like teen drama things, but like there was a fraternity there that felt like a bunch of oddballs. They were just really cool and quirky. I'm like, if I find that, I'll join. So I did join one, and when I got in there, they essentially had 15, 20 members, and I was like, I thought that this was bigger, but like when you're a new person, so that's not the first time someone said that. Again, no children, please. No children. But because I had gotten accustomed to the organization, I really liked the guys who were in it. Like, I wanted more people to see what this was like, to feel, because there were so many people who were like, oh, I'll never join Geek Life. That's not going to be a thing that I want to do. And I found these guys, and they were like brown and black and white and gay and straight and all these just like hodgepodge weirdos playing video games.
It's
and
like Monsters University.
It's like Monsters University, exactly.
It's so cute.
So that pushed me past my comfort zone, because I am not naturally I'm an introvert. I was very shy, and like I am very outgoing now.
Yeah, I was gonna say, mind you, listeners, he's really outgoing, but
I still have my battery. When I hit that wall, I'm like, and that's been enough for me.
I
Goodbye.
know that's right.
And be like, oh wow, look at the time. It is time for me to go.
Correct.
But I initially joined student government, fraternity. Like, I was already in a fraternity. I joined the programs board. I did all these things, and because of that, I was studying sociology at the time. So I was like, this is a study of people. What do you do with that degree? And the answer was nothing. The answer honestly was nothing.
I'm sure you could do something.
Name any sociologists that you know. Name a famous sociologist, Nicole.
Okay, you got me there.
Right.
Maybe it is a bit harder.
It's one of those degrees where it's like you just need to finish with something, and sociology.
Sociological. Never mind, that's not even the right word. Okay, forget it. Nope.
I love that you tried.
I really wanted to.
I appreciate the effort.
We're going to get angry letters from sociologists being like, I'm successful.
Yes, and I will happily listen to those people and be like, wow, the things I could have done. Hindsight, you know?
I'm going to be like, prove it.
But because of that, like, I was an orientation leader. I don't know if you had the same, like, things like the O week or whatever you want to call it. The people who, like, run that. I did that for 3 summers, and my supervisor was my mentor. It was, like, my senior year, and she's like, your grades are good. You're doing great at this. What do you want to do when you graduate? And I was just like, I don't know. I guess I'll just graduate and see what jobs are available. It's like, well, have you considered student affairs? And I was like, what is that? And she's like, well, what do you think I do? And at that time, I was like, I know I got paid. Like, we got paid to do the job. But I didn't think that she also got paid for some reason. Like, those just did not connect in my head.
Yeah.
And it was like, yeah, I get paid to train you, to develop you. And I'm like, oh, that sounds like something I would really like to do.
That sounds like a pretty good job.
So I finished up. I got into the master's program at the same university, and I did that, completed it. Some of the greatest 2 years, like a lot of experiences to do there. And like, but at that point, I'd already been in Texas for so long. I'm like, I gotta go.
Yeah, I get that.
And I was the kind of person that, because I'm the oldest of 6, everyone. So there was this like unspoken, implied responsibility that I had to take care of everyone. And I was always very like, if my friends or family had a problem, I was like, oh, I want to help, because I don't like seeing people I love suffer. But I started to make that like a personality trait where like I had to take care of everything. So I never got to study abroad. I always wanted to travel around. I heard about Australia when I saw Kangaroo Jack, and I was just obsessed.
I love that.
That was the first time. It was like 2001 when that came out. So it's like I was like, oh, that seems so cool. I want to go there one day.
I love that was like the pull-in was Kangaroo Jack. Yeah, like my whole thing was like, I was like, I'm just going to move to a country that I don't need to learn the language for. And I was like, I didn't want to go to Canada because of the snow. I was like, Australia, it's sunny, it's beachy, I'll go there instead.
You chose beachy, but you're in Melbourne?
I'm in Melbourne, which we will get into later.
Yes, we'll get into that one as well.
I was duped.
But yeah, so because I felt like I needed to be close to my friends and family, I never studied abroad. I never actually had left the country. I didn't have a passport until I was 24.
Oh, wow.
So, like, once I had gotten my job, I graduated. I got my dream job in California. Before I even graduated, like, it was the whole American dream thing. Like, you study hard enough, you do these things, you get this job before you graduate. And I was like, cool, boom, off to California. So I was living in California. I got a job in the programs board where I basically just had a lot of night and weekend programs with students. And because of that, we got a lot of time in lieu where I could just take extra time. I got free vacation days, essentially. Yeah. Which in America,
awesome.
As like, if you're American, you know, like it's a 2 week.
It's gold.
There's like nothing. So more than 2 weeks. Time. Incredible. Here, 4 weeks. We're going into that later.
Minimum.
4 weeks minimum.
Minimum.
So at that job, I got a lot of time.
You better take them. You better take those weeks.
Oh, we're going to get the accent on this, aren't we? We're going to get the accent?
Yes, fair dinkum, mate.
I love that. I do. I really like that that's happening. But in my story, I basically got a lot of time off, and I also had just enough money to, like, I had enough money to rub two pennies together, so I'm like, I'm going to travel because I can, I'm an adult, and no one's going to stop me.
Correct.
So I decided I want to do a continent a year. I started with Europe, bounced around Ireland, England, the Netherlands, et cetera, but because I didn't have like that much time, it was like 3 days here, 4 days here. It wasn't anything succinct, anything like concrete. I couldn't tell you about those trips. I have pictures, and that's about it. The next year, I went to Australia with one of my best friends, and we went to Sydney, and we were accidentally there during Mardi Gras.
Oh my God, what a magical time.
Right? So for those of you who don't know about Sydney's Mardi Gras, it is not the same as Louisiana, New Orleans Mardi Gras. It is
not to be mistaken.
Not at all. So we got there, and I'm like, what? Is Sydney always this gay? It was just like rainbows everywhere, all these events, shirtless, naked people half everywhere.
Gorgeous.
And I was just like, this just feels like did no one tell me that Sydney was this gay? And obviously I figured out pretty quickly that it was an event. And I'm like, oh, well, lucky us. But because we didn't plan anything, we didn't get any of the tickets, but everyone I met there was not from Australia. It was like, this guy was French. This guy was Brazilian.
It's like their World Pride event,
Yes,
right? So people from all over the world come here for gay pride.
Exactly. But the people that I was meeting, they have been living here for a year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever. And I'm like, well, how are you doing that? Because when I found it was a World Pride, I'm like, cool, great. Well, not a World Pride, but it was like, it is a big thing. People do come from all over the world with it, but they were residents. Like, they lived in Sydney. And I was like, how are you doing the thing? Because as an American, everything's in America. You don't need to leave because everything is here for you. Woo. So when they told me that we're about the working holiday visa, which we will discuss on another episode, I was like, what is that? And I was like, when I found out that I could just move here as long as I was under 31 and just live in another country, I'm like, this is better than study abroad because I don't have to study. I can just go do things. I can go have fun. I can be whoever I want. So while I was there, one of my friends, one of the people I met there was like, you either love Sydney or you love Melbourne. And I'm like, I like Sydney. It was cool. It was fun.
She's cute. She's pretty. She's got a really nice face.
Yes.
The harbor, like she's got the harbor, she's got the bridge, she's got the opera house.
Yep, all of those things, and that was nice. But I was just like, I wasn't sold. It was like, that is stuff. Yeah. Those are buildings. I needed the people. Yeah. Everyone I met like 2 Australians. So it wasn't really giving me anything. So a few months passed, and I saw a really cheap flight because I lived in LA at the time. So I saw a really cheap flight. I was like $500-$600 round trip from LA to Melbourne, and I'm like, I'm gonna go. I got here in August of 2016. It was like middle of winter. It was rainy, and I loved it. I don't know why. I got off the plane, and I just felt good. And I was like, I want to be here. Like, I want to do this. So
it was rainy, and I loved it.
And like,
so great.
I grew up in Texas and California, so like, Texas gets rain all the time, but usually they're both very sunny, very warm places. So the fact that it was like a winter time and it was kind of cold and chilly, it just felt like it might have seasons.
Wow.
I'm like, I want some seasons. Give me some season because I love seasons. I love seasoning. Let's just do it. But so like I came back to my job and I was like, hey, I was actually super worried about coming here because in America, if you have a year on you, if you have a gap in your resume, that's career suicide.
It is so bad. They always like, can you explain this? Yeah. Explain this gap in your resume, like for 1 month. And it's like, for 1 year, it would be like, oh my God, what am I even gonna say?
Yeah, and then I actually sat down with my boss at the time, and I was like, I really want to do this thing, but I'm worried about the gap in the resume. And she was like, if someone asks you about the gap in your resume and you can tell them you lived in Australia, who's not going to want you? Like, and the field that I was in, it was student affairs, student development. So I'm going to be talking to a lot of teenagers, like people who were just out of high school, and they would be so mystified and excited that I lived in another country because, again, that's not a thing that people do.
Totally.
And to come back and bring that experience with me, she was like, literally go. Like, it would have put her in a bad position. But shout out to Andrea.
Shout out to Andrea, who had that foresight. That's awesome.
So
that's good advice, too.
1,000%. I mean, like, there was, I wanted to go so badly. My job was great. My boss, obviously, you can tell, was very great. But it was just like, if I woke up one day and I was 31, 32 and had not tried, I would have been full of regret forever. And I'm like, you know what? Let me just go. I'm going to try it. And then I did. I quit my job. One of my friends was supposed to move here with me, but at the last minute, he had to pull out.
Oh.
And I'd never traveled alone by myself.
Oh, my God.
So I was just literally moving to a country by myself, and I just hopped off the plane and was like, here we are.
You brave.
And 6 years later, I live to tell the story.
Oh, my God. That's amazing.
And yeah, so I mean, and in between those, every month, every year, every week has been an experience, whether that be good, bad, or otherwise. And I think that's like the main point of this podcast. Like, obviously, we both still live here. I'm on the edge of getting my citizenship. You're about to start the process as well.
I have the tab open in my Internet Explorer.
I'm
I haven't filled anything out yet. I've made a login.
You can't hear it, but I am just so exacerbated by this. Like, I'm pressing my eyes.
Ri'chard led such a wonderful seminar the other day for like me and another friend on how he went through his citizenship process. And it was fantastic. 5 stars, honey. 5 stars.
I walked so you could run and you continue to walk yourself.
I haven't done it.
He's like, ooh, run in this heat? You see this outfit?
I haven't. I've been more concerned on getting my outfit together for your citizenship party at the end of next month. I'm more concerned about that than getting my actual citizenship.
Yes. Well, priorities. Outfits are always priority over permanence. I mean, it shouldn't be that way, but it does appear to be that way. But, you know, so that being said, both of us do plan to be here for the foreseeable future. Is that fair to say?
I think so.
So, like, regardless of how we feel about our opinions on the podcast, we'll give you the good, the bad, and the ugly. But it doesn't mean that we hate it here. Like, it is still light years above living in America. I will never go back if I have a choice. If I have a choice, I will not be going back to America. But sometimes, like, you can never say never. That's why even when I get citizenship, I will keep both of them because sometimes things are unavoidable and you have to go back. But if it's just a resting state of what I can do, I'm not going back. It's good to have two. It's good to have two. It's good to have options.
It's good to have options.
We love the options.
We love options.
But I think that's pretty much the gist of our introduction. Is there anything that you feel that you want to?
Anything that I feel in regards to moving to Melbourne? No, I can't think of anything.
Oh no, just about the introduction to the podcast as a whole.
No, because I feel like everything else that I want to talk about, it'll be a deep dive. And I think that's a pretty good place to put it for our introductions.
I agree as well. I mean, you have now understood who we are as people, or like at least a little teaser of sorts. And from then, I guess we'll just have to wait for the next episode to see what else we get into.
Totally. Wait, that's not the whole episode.
Yeah, it was just...
What? No, not the whole thing.
What else? Yes, the intro. We just wanted to talk about ourselves. Check the notes.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Then let me just double check and say, sorry, I had to like post my other stuff because I've been working as, wow, that was actually a lot more
condensed.
Well,
because we were just like talking shit and we were drinking. Okay. The first one
we were drinking. We were. The very first one was just like, it was a lot of fun. I loved it. But I was like, my God, this is so chaotic.
We went on so many tangents. But even so, we did a few tangents, but we were more succinct about what we wanted to say. And now it's about maybe 20 minutes less. Like, that's 20
minutes less. That's not too bad. Because we were like a full hour last time.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess like a lot of the things that we're going to be discussing on this podcast are certainly going to be, well, of course, like the citizenship, immigration, how we got here, but also more the things that we've experienced here now that we've had more time here, like the fashion and the haircuts and the way the food is here, because the food is actually outstanding.
Yes. Specific foods are outstanding.
I think the coffee here is absolutely incredible.
Coffee culture will have to
Coffee
discuss.
culture
We can do
is
like,
so real.
like a food and drinks
I would really love
episode,
that.
maybe?
I would love that.
Yeah, so we're going to have a food and drinks episode. We're going to dig around the like format of the things coming up. But I think for the introduction, we should stop talking about the topics that we're going to be talking about and sign off so that we can work on this.
Okay, fair enough. Is Beyonce going to be one of the topics?
Beyonce's not Australian.
Okay, fine. We can stop there.
Yes.
Great.
So how would you like to sign off?
Well, thanks, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We really appreciate it, and we really look forward to telling our story.
Indeed. Well, I'm Ri'chard.
I'm Nicole.
And this is Melanated in Melbourne, and you enjoy the rest of your days, nights, and evenings. Evenings? Afternoons? What if it's morning?
All that. All those
Enjoy your
times.
time away from us. I know you'll miss us very much.
Even though some of us don't believe in time.
Or being on time.
All right. Melanated in Melbourne.